Jamie from Country Diggers here. Today I'm going to do a history on Elisabeth Báthory, the Blood Countess. Now, some folks say she's the most prolific serial killer in history. We're going to find out why. All right, stay tuned. Elisabeth Báthory, the Blood Countess, by Elisabeth Sherman, 2022, at ATI. Elisabeth Báthory was born August 7, 1560, in the Kingdom of Hungary. Died August 21, 1614, at age 54, Kingdom of Hungary, which is now Slovakia. From 1590 to 1610, Elisabeth Báthory allegedly tortured and killed hundreds of poor servant girls and women in Hungary. But was she actually guilty of these heinous crimes? In the early 17th century, rumors began to circulate around the village of Tresan in present-day Slovakia. Peasant girls looking for servant work in Cstej Castle, CSEJTE Castle, were disappearing, and no one knew why. But before long, many locals began to point their fingers at Countess Elisabeth Báthory. Báthory, a scion of a powerful Hungarian family, and the product of inbreeding between Baron George Báthory and Baroness Anna Báthory, called the Cstej Castle home. She had received it as a wedding gift from her husband, the famed Hungarian war hero, Franz Nadasdy. By 1578, Nadasdy had become the chief commander of the Hungarian army and embarked on a military campaign against the Ottoman Empire, leaving his wife in charge of his vast estates and the governing of local populace. At first, all appeared to have been well under the Báthory's leadership, but as time went on, rumors that Báthory tortured her servants began to spread, and when Báthory's husband died in 1604, these views became much more widespread and dramatic. She would soon be accused of not only torturing, but killing hundreds of girls and women who entered her castle. Today, Elisabeth Báthory is infamously remembered as the Blood Countess, who killed up to 650 girls and women in the Kingdom of Hungary. If all these stories about her are true, then she is likely the most prolific and vicious female serial killer of all time. But not everyone is convinced of her guilt. How Elisabeth Báthory's alleged crimes began. Elizabeth was born and raised in a noble family. Elizabeth knew a life of privilege from an early age, and some say she would later use that power to commit heinous acts. According to witnesses, Báthory's crimes took place between 1590 and 1610, with most of the vicious murders happening after her husband's death in 1604. Her first targets were said to have been poor girls and young women who were lured to the castle with the promise of servant work. But as the story goes, Báthory didn't stop there. She allegedly expanded her sights and began killing daughters of the gentry who had been sent to the castle for their education. She also supposedly kidnapped local girls in the area who would never have come to the castle of their own free will. As a wealthy noblewoman, Báthory evaded the law until 1610. By that point, Báthory had reportedly killed multiple victims of noble birth, which concerned the authorities for more for more than the deaths of the servants. 50 Hungarian servants. So Hungarian King Matthias II sent his highest-ranking representative, Gregory Thurzo, to investigate the complaints against her. Thurzo collected evidence from some 300 witnesses who leveled a bevy of truly horrifying charges against the Countess. The shocking accusations against the Hungarian blood countess. According to the contemporary reports and the stories told long after, Elisabeth Báthory tortured girls and young women in unspeakable ways. She allegedly burned her victims with hot irons, beat them to death with clubs, stuck needles under their fingernails, poured ice water over their bodies, and left them to freeze to death outside in the cold, covered them in honey so that bugs could feast on their exposed skin, sewed their lips together, and bit off chunks of flesh from their breasts and faces. Witnesses claimed that Báthory's favorite method of torture was using scissors to mutilate her victims' bodies and faces. She supposedly used the instruments to cut off their hands, noses, and genitals. She sometimes even used scissors to slice open the skin between her victims' fingers. Those horrific acts of violence and the sometimes supernatural legends that surround the crimes help define Elisabeth Báthory's terrifying legacy today. At the time of Thurzo's investigation, some accused her of being a vampire, while others claimed to have seen her have sex with the devil. The most infamous accusation, the one that inspired her nickname, the Blood Countess, claimed that Elisabeth bathed in the blood of her young victims in an attempt to maintain a youthful appearance. But although this story is by far the most memorable, it's also extremely unlikely to have been true. This claim didn't even appear in print until after she had been dead for more than a century. Considering the mythology elements of Báthory's alleged crimes, it begs the question of how much of her bloody story was actually true and how much was made up just to take a powerful and wealthy woman down. Was Elisabeth Báthory really a blood countess? After hearing the accusations, Thurzo ultimately charged Báthory with the deaths of 80 girls. That said, one witness claimed to have seen a book kept by Báthory herself, where she recorded the names of all her victims, 650 in total. This diary, however, appears to have only been a legend. When the trial ended, Báthory's alleged accomplices, one of whom had worked as a wet nurse for the Countess's children, were convicted of witchcraft and burned at the stake. Báthory herself was spared from execution due to her status as a noble. However, she was bricked up and isolated in a room at the castle, where she remained under house arrest for 4 years until her death in 1614. But Báthory's case may not have been as cut and dried as it seemed. In fact, some modern Hungarian scholars say that it may have been motivated more by others' power and greed than her supposed evil. It turns out that King Matthias II owed Báthory's late husband and then her a sizable debt. Matthias was not inclined to pay that debt, which historians say may have fueled his move to incriminate the Countess in multiple crimes and deny her the opportunity to defend herself in court. Likewise, some historians say that witnesses probably provided the incriminating yet contradictory testimonies under duress, and that the king called for the death penalty before Báthory's family could intervene on her behalf. This too may have been politically motivated, as the death penalty meant that the king could seize her land. Perhaps historians say the true story of Elisabeth Báthory looks more like this. The Countess owned strategically important land that increased her family's already vast wealth. As an intelligent, powerful woman who ruled without a man at her side, and as a member of a family whose wealth intimidated the king, his court went on a mission to discredit and ruin her. The best-case scenario is that Báthory abused her servants, but came nowhere near the level of violence alleged at her trial. Worst case, she was a blood-sucking demon sent from hell to murder young women. Both make for a compelling story, even if only one of them is actually true. Y'all decide for yourself about it. I have learned that in history, rumors like this are based in fact too. And it could be that the king wanted her land, and that's why he devised this plan. I'm not sure, but y'all decide for yourself. Hope y'all enjoy. See you later. Bye.